Well, howdy everybody, how you going? And of course, how's your riding going? Well, we had a ride on the weekend, as we always do, and I was speaking to one of our riders and he just got himself a new set of carbon deep dish wheels. Not expensive ones and not cheap ones, middle of the range. And I asked him how he was going with them, what he thought of them. And the first thing he said was, I reckon on average you're about 2 to 4 k's an hour faster. Now that's interesting because this rider has never ridden deep dish carbon wheels before. He's always had just the shallow aluminium wheel set on his bike. So maybe you've been thinking the same sort of thing. Maybe you want to upgrade the wheels you've got or have an extra set of wheels, and an extra set is going to be carbon deep dish wheels. So you're looking into it. Well, this video may help you out. In particular because we're going to look at these wheels, and these wheels are slightly different because they're made in Korea.
In this video, we're going to take an in-depth look at a new wheel set on the market, revealing hidden details that most people will overlook. This may help you with your next purchase, whether it's a new or a second-hand wheel set. And in a follow-up video, we'll see how these wheels actually perform.
Now these wheels, the company is called Aviav, not Aviav. Now they make two models. The medium model, which is this one, called the Aedion, and then they make a top of the range, nice lightweight model, and they're called the Aero X. And of course, they make them in different variations. Some are tubular, some are clincher, some are different wider, some are different depths, some are disc brake, and some are quick release ordinary. So let's have a closer look at these Aedion wheels. Now these wheels come with 4 spare spokes, 2 valve extenders, a valve extender on core remover, 2 aluminium lock rings for your rotors, 2 rim tapes, and warranty and instruction manual. Now I'm glad I got these wheels because for 2 reasons, and maybe you're thinking the same. First of all, these take wider tyres, up to 32C. Isn't everything going wider now on bikes, on their road bikes? From 28s to 30s, even to 32s. And all my previous wheel sets have been limited to about 25. I've got one set that goes up to 28, and that's all. So this will allow me to try out some wider tyres, and you might be thinking the same. And the other thing is, on my bike that I'm putting these wheels on, they've got 140 disc rotors, and I want to try out 160s, like on my Canyon's got 160s, front and rear. So here's the new 160 discs that are going on these wheels. And if you're thinking doing the same, going from 140 to 160, all you need to do is buy yourself the rotors and of course a little adapter for your rear caliper. First question everybody asks, how much do they weigh? So, rear wheel, 900 grams. Front wheel, 750 grams. Aviav make 2 sorts of rims, as tubulars or glue-ons as we know them, and clincher. As for hookless clincher, well, when everybody else starts making hookless rims, then Aviav will do that as well, but in the meantime, definitely clinchers. Now, what sort of carbon fibre are these rims made from? In the Aedion model, that's this model, it's T700 carbon, and in the Aero X it's T800 carbon. That really doesn't mean a lot, because what's more important is the quality of the workmanship putting into the layup of the rims. There's no point having top of the range carbon fibre if there's voids and delamination going on in the workmanship. So more important is how it's put together, and that includes any carbon fibre product. The finish is matte carbon on these wheels, very consistent and very cleanly done, very nice. The logos are individual letters stuck on, and they are stickers, so if you want to leave them on you can, or if you want to peel them off and have the stealthy look plain black, you can do that as well. As for the width of these rims, firstly the inside width, then the outside width. These ones are 50mm. Now the pressure rating for these rims is 120 psi for a 30mm tyre. The whole idea of using wider tyres is lower pressure, of course, so there's no way you're going to be using 120 psi on 30mm tyres anyhow. The rim tapes are ever so slightly elastic, so they're easy to put on, and there's good coverage of the rim. Now there's holes for every single spoke and nipple, so if you have an accident and you break a spoke or the nipple or something like that, you can replace the spoke and the nipple. It's easy access there. Now the spokes are Pilar brand, PSA Extra is the model, and they're bladed flat spokes. There's 20 spokes on the front wheel and 24 on the rear. Because of their disc brakes, they cross the spokes for added strength. These spokes themselves are, it's a magnet, stainless steel, and the nipples are aluminium. And at the hub, they're straight pull. The hubs have sealed bearings front and rear, 4 in the rear, 2 in the front. They're very, very smooth, and there's not much friction either. Some seal bearings are rather tight on the seals. These ones are very, very good actually. You do a slow spin. Sometimes you can feel things on a slow spin more so than a fast spin. But this is fine. I won't do the front wheel because that'll be even better. That's fine. Do the fast spin. No, can't feel a thing. You can throw axle ends, pull out very easily just by hand, like that. And you can have a look inside. So if you need to service them, pop back in. Same with the front one, very easy. The clutch, nice and loud and strong. And also that pulls out very simply. No tools required. Look at that. So you can see inside there, bearing with a green seal on it. And it has 4 poles. This is great. Wish all hubs were like this. No tools required. Clutch engagement. I'll put the logo up the top there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 35, 36. 36 engagements per revolution. The freewheel body is a magnet. It's not sticking to it, so it's not steel, it's aluminium. The throw axle sizes are pretty much standard, 12mm diameter, 100 wide for the front and 142 for the rear. The lock rings that are supplied with these wheels are aluminium. They have an Aviav logo on them, and they're a little bit bigger than the Shimano ones. Here's a Shimano one here. I think the Shimano ones look a little bit better, plus they're a gram or 2 lighter as well. The fitting for the disc brake rotors on all Aviav wheels are center lock. If you want to use 6-bolt, then you have to go and buy yourself some extra adapters to go on. Now let's have a look at how well these wheels have been built. First of all, we're going to have a look at spoke twist. Now, with all your aerodynamic wheels, most of them now have flat or bladed spokes. And with the bladed spokes, they need to be facing in this direction. So I'll just turn it around to show you. So if you're looking the wheel front on like that, the wind's coming this way, then the flat spoke has to be facing that way, the skinniest. According to the wind, it's nice and skinny. As soon as the blade spokes turn to that way, then they're going to work against you, going to be less aerodynamic. So you've got to make sure they're nice and straight. Now, if the spokes are twisted anywhere, then it's going to start work against it. So you've got to make sure they're all nice and flat in this direction. Now, with the old J-bend spokes here, you've got a little bent head there. That sits in the hub, and the flat section of the spoke up this end stays nice and flat against the wind because it can't be twisted because the head is holding it. This end, as you turn the nipple, this can be twisted. So sometimes with the old J-bend spoke, it can be straight that end, no problem, but this end, it can be slightly out. So that's why they have a tool to hold it as you do up the nipple. However, now we've got these spokes, a lot of hubs now have straight pull spokes. So the head sits in the hub and it can be twisted not only at the nipple end, but also at the head end. The spoke can twist in the hub. So you can have a flat bladed spoke that can be out down at the nipple end, and you can also twist it at the hub end, it can be out. So you need to hold it both at this end and that end when the wheel's being put together or trued. So with these sorts of spokes, let's go and check and see if they're nice and flat both at the nipple end and at the hub end. Here's the tool we're going to use, and this little end here fits on the spoke just right. So if we slide it up, and you can see it's pointing directly upwards, that's fine. So we'll go to the next one, slide along, and that's also pointing up, slightly inward more than the other one, but it's still excellent. Try the next spoke, that's fine. Next spoke, and we'll keep going.
back to the beginning again. So they're all fine on this side. So we've just measured the rear wheel on the cassette side and they're all fine. So let's go to the non-cassette side and try that. And you can see it's straight. We'll go around and do all them. They all check out fine. Now let's try at the hub end of the spoke. Okay, we're going to do every second spoke and then we'll come back and do the spokes underneath because it's easy with the tool. So just fits on that one. Now, as we can see, this one is facing slightly inwards. You can see it. It's very difficult to see. It's not quite exactly straight. It's pointing inwards, that spoke. So that really needs to come out a fraction. That one's not too bad. You can see that's straighter. Okay, that one's pointing in slightly. That should really come back out. Now that's definitely in. See how much that's in? So that needs to come out. The blade spoke is obviously twisted inwards. So same with that one. That's not too good. That's facing inwards. Not quite as bad as the other one. And that one's facing in as bad as well. So got quite a few that are not good. All facing in the same twisted direction inwards. So obviously it's a common building problem there that they had, an oversight, I would say. Now we're going to measure the other spoke on the other side, so it's further away from the camera. Okay, now the tool's pointing slightly outwards, so that really needs to come in. Same on that one. Yeah, it's not too bad. That's out as well. See, they're all out in the same direction. That's because it's way out. You can see it's pointing way out there. That's fair way out as well. Now let's try this side. That's not too bad. I'll just straighten this up so you can see. That's not too bad. See, that's how it should be. Straight. Good. Now that's actually facing inwards. You can see that? It's facing inwards. That should really come out a bit. Yeah. That's not too bad. It's slightly facing inwards. Not too bad. It's acceptable. Slightly inwards, but just acceptable. And that's back to that straight one again. That's fine. Now we'll try this side, the other spokes. See, that's out. Look how much that's out. That's a long way out. That's out as well. Not quite as much. Out as well. That's out. Here. That's not as bad. Slightly out. That would be just acceptable, probably. Be nice to put it in. It's not as bad as the others, so it's not too bad. Slightly out. It's just slightly out. Just slightly out. And we're back to that one again where it's a fair way out. So there you go. That's your back wheel. Now we'll see how the front wheel fares. Starting at the valve hole. That's good. That's good. Very slightly inwards, but that's definitely acceptable. Good. Have we passed the valve hole? Slightly inwards, very slightly, but acceptable. Good. Yep. Now let's try the other ones. That's fine. That's good. Ooh, that one's slightly out. There you go. You can see one is slightly out. I feel like just pushing it in a bit, but don't do that. That's acceptable. That's acceptable. That's good. That's good. Good. Yeah, so there's one. There it is there. One spoke that's slightly out. I'll just try the other side.
Yeah, see that's slightly inwards if you look at it this way. Yeah, see it's slightly inwards. I would adjust that one. Slightly inwards. Slightly inwards. Yeah, there's a few slightly inwards on this side. Slightly inwards. So they obviously haven't taken that much. That's okay. You can see that. So they haven't taken that much care in building the wheels. Not as far as the spoke twist is concerned anyhow. That's fine. Okay, looks like we're on a run here. So it seems that when they build a wheel, there's obviously a pattern to their mistakes. So the way they build their wheel and their inattention to absolute detail as far as spoke twist is concerned has come out in a patterned way, a predictable way. See, they're all fine on that bit. On the underside, it's just the overside, there's quite a few out. And on this side, they're mostly fine except for that one spoke. So there you go. Starting at the valve hole, which is here. That's pretty good. That's good. I think they're all going to be good. Yep, that's fine on there. And we'll just try the other side. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same. Let's just turn this jig around a little bit for you. Okay, that's good. Yeah, they're all going to be good. That's fine. Good. Are we back at the valve hole yet? I've probably passed it. No? Good. Good. They're all good. Yep, they're all good. And that makes sense because the front wheel is easier to put together. It's more symmetrical for a start. Well, that was very interesting on a new set of wheels. Perhaps you've got a set of wheels with bladed spokes at home. So get yourself one of these tools and try out, see if they're straight, see if the spoke twist at the nipple end and at the hub end, especially if you've got the straight pull spokes. Because otherwise you could be losing your power to the wind. Now let's see how true the wheels are. For that, we're going to need a different truing stand. Now this stand isn't so much for building wheels, but it's excellent for checking trueness. Now it's pretty easy to tell if there's a buckle in the wheel. Put it in the stand, give it a spin, bring the indicators in till one of them touches the rim. And you can hear it's uneven, but we want to know by how much. So we spin the wheel and hold one indicator out while we bring the other one in till it touches. At one spot. Just there. Right there. So we're going to chalk that. Okay, so it's just here on that chalk mark there. That's where the maximum deflection on this side is. So if the rim at this point is coming out here at the most, at the same point it must be in at the most on this side. So all we need to do now is measure from this point to the maximum amount that it's out, wherever that is on this side. So we'll just find out where that is. So we don't need these pointers anymore, but we'll use the indicator. And we set that right where that chalk mark is, which is here. I'll just draw that for you. Draw on both sides. So there's where we are. That's our maximum deviation on this side. So we put the dial there and set it on 0. Make sure it's in, so it's just touching the rim. So that anywhere from there goes up, you can see the dial. So the minimum amount is back at our chalk mark there, which is 0. 11. Go down to 0 again. 9. So back to the beginning again, because there's our chalk mark just there. So it looks like, just past the chalk mark, we've got about 11. Is that 11? Oh, no, we're more than that. We're just there. 12. So the increments are 0.01 millimetre. So at 12, it's 0.12 millimetres out, this rear wheel. Now let's try the front wheel. 13, 14, 15, 16. And we're back at the mark again. So 16, looks like 16. So that's our 0.16 millimetre. Now let's try the up and down, or the vertical buckle. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 24. We'll call that 24 there. Oh, 26.
So as not to bore you to tears watching dials, the maximums were rear 0.3mm and front 0.26mm.
So that's our trueness. Anything under 0.5 millimetre is usually considered insignificant because your tyre has more imperfections anyhow. So these wheels came up excellent. Spoke tension is the next thing we're going to test out, and for that we need this tool.
Measuring both the front and the rear wheel, both left and right side, here's the numbers. Plotting the numbers on the circular graph, you can see on the rotor side of the front wheel there's a spoke that has too much tension and one spoke next to it that has too little tension. On the non-rotor side, it's very good. For the rear wheel, you can see on the cassette side there's two spokes that have a little bit too much tension. One in particular has too much tension, while on the non-cassette side, that's the rotor side, it looks quite good. After giving the wheels some de-stressing, let's measure again. The old figures, 197 for the front, 231 for the rear. The new figures, same for the front, and the rear one's a little bit less, but nevertheless it's still too high. Tapping a plastic tie lever on your spokes is still a good way of determining whether a wheel is evenly tensioned.
On the rear wheel, it's not so much of a difference, but you'll still hear it. There it is there. So I've marked it here with the chalk, and it's nowhere near the valve hole because the valve hole is about 1/4 of a turn that way, and it's not even opposite the valve hole's up here. So why is it so high tension? Next we'll check the spoke length. If the spokes are too short, they're going to pull out of the nipple. If they're too long, well, it represents they've miscalculated, and also you've got a little bit added on to the rim all the way around. It's going to be extra weight all up. Now, because of deep section rims, it's difficult to see inside, even with a torch. So we're going to use this endoscope. And as you can see there, we zoom in and we come into the hole of the rim, and then we can see inside the rim. There's the nipple and there's the spoke coming through, and it's very good, it's flush. So that's perfect there. So if that represents all the spokes, that'd be good, but we'll check them anyhow. Very good. Very good. Very good. Now this is a front wheel, so they're going to be all okay. You only really need to check a few. It's going to be consistent because obviously they've used the right length spoke. So we'll do the rear wheel now.
For the rear wheel, the spoke length for both sides was perfectly good.
Another thing we'll check is dishing. Now you might say, well, you don't need to check dishing because you've got disc brakes, no calipers to worry about, so it doesn't matter if it's slightly out. Well, that's true as far as that's concerned. But if your wheels are slightly out in the frame, when you let go of your hands on your riding, your bike will go to one side slightly, depending on which way the dishing is and by how much. So now that doesn't really matter because when you have your hands on the bike, you won't feel it. But in effect, you actually are. You're fighting it a little bit just to keep it straight without you even knowing about it. So it's still important to have relatively straight dished wheels. So this is the rear wheel. Just move it a touch more. It's only a little bit there. When you turn it over, significantly different. So this wheel is dished too far over that way, needs to be pulled back that way. When you put it in a dead straight frame, this rim won't be central to the frame. Okay, the dishing's out on the front wheel as well. Hear that? Just a little bit here. And on this side, just a fair bit more. So it's dished away from the rotor side. So in real life, let's have a look. We'll put the front wheel here and the rear wheel at the back, cassette on this side, just the same as I was riding toward you. So this front wheel was dished slightly this way, and the rear one is slightly dished that way. So I'm going to exaggerate it. In effect, instead of being dead straight like that, they're going to be slightly out. So they're not tracking correctly either. Ideally, you want the wheels to follow each other and not following each other. There are a couple of mil out on each wheel. Next is to do a little stress relief test. So we just give the wheel a bit of a flex all the way around on both sides, and that imitates forces like if you're riding on your bike anyway with the wheels in there, they undergo a bit of force torsionally. So we'll take any stresses out in the wheel. Hopefully there's none in there inbuilt, and so the wheel won't make any noises, cracks or pops or anything. So if you've not done this before, don't do it. Do it only if you're an experienced wheel builder, because you've got to know how much force and how to do it. And so you listen to any creaks or pops. None there. Nope. That's the front wheel. The rear wheel. Very good, no noises, so they should be fine. Next is the tyres and tubes, and to see how tight the tyre is on the rim. Now, it's no point having a tyre so tight that it requires 3 tyre levers to get the thing started to get it off, because it's okay in the workshop, but if you're out and riding along and you get a puncture, how are you possibly going to take the tyre off to change the tube? So tyres can't be too tight. Of course, they probably won't be too loose. So let's see how these ones go. Now, you should be able to put your tyres on by hand. You should never use a tyre lever to take them on or off. But if you need to, you can use one tyre lever, but you shouldn't really need to. Once you get some practice how to do it, you should just use your hands and it'll be fine. I'll do a video on that one day. Continental long valve tubes. Now, always put a little bit of air into your tube so that it takes shape. Valve in. Now, if you want, you can put some electrical tape or some PTFE. I recommend PTFE tape to stop your valve rattling, but I'll do that later. Valve, always work from the valve downwards, away from the valve. Okay, now when you get to the tight bit here, use the palm of your hand, like that, roll it over, and your thumbs a little bit. But don't rely on just your thumbs if it's hard, because you're going to end up hurting your thumbs and your fingers. So use the palm of your, roll it over, bang. Okay, so that was good. That's good. Brand new tyres and a nice fit, not too tight, not too loose. So that's fine. So I'm now going to take that off and put some PTFE tape around that valve. Just before I do, I heard someone whisper there, I bet you can't take the tyre off without a tyre lever. Well, there you go. Bang. they're actually a very good fit. They're among the best wheels I've fitted tyres onto, so really good fitting. I've had some really nice wheels and been very, very tight, like Zips. Zips used to be really tight. Well, I found the pair I had, 404s. And the Reynolds Strikes I find a little bit hard as well. But these are really, really good. They're definitely not loose and definitely not too tight. So excellent, excellent fitting. Bang on the rotor. Note the torque setting of the lock nut, 40 Newton meters. Remove your cassette. Always put a very light smear of grease on the cassette body. As you can see, there's a few rust dots coming along on this cassette, but nevertheless, this is the original from the R6 when I first started the wax chain. So it's done 14,500 kilometres on that, plus another over 2,000 now on the new R12. So 16,500 kilometres so far. It's still going strong. That's what happens when you wax your chain. They last a long time. Now always make sure there's a bit of grease too on that thread. That's not too bad.
So here's my evaluation of this wheel set. First of all, the negatives. Spoke twist. There are a few too many spokes that are out a little too far, so 8 out of 10 for that. Uneven spoke tension. They all fall within a 20% variation range. Nothing overly drastic. However, there could be better, so 9 out of 10. Dishing, only 6 out of 10 because both the front and the rear wheels were out. Now, this is a basic and easy aspect of wheel building that should not go wrong. And now for some positives. First of all, I just love the no tools required rear hub access. It's brilliant. Secondly, both wheels, even after pre-stressing, remained very, very true. Spoke length. Now, I've seen quite a few name brands take shortcuts in this area, but these wheels are spot on. And lastly, tyre fitting is pretty much perfect. All up, the components that make up this wheel set are very, very good. It's just a little bit of lack of the labour, a little bit more attention to detail in the building, which I'm sure AVAV will achieve, and these will be excellent wheels.
Sounds the same as Trevor's clutch. Do it again. Got to the coffee shop, 55 k's in. And the wheels are fine, really nice. Still there, still holding together. They didn't explode on the 85 k's an hour coming down Parawa Hill.